Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for gathering here. And we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Prabhupada Priya Mataji, a renowned teacher in ISKCON with over 3 decades of experience, is known for her deep and insightful classes that present Vedic scriptures in a practical way. She serves as the education director at Krishna House and was teaching at Sri Mayapur International School. She serves as a course instructor for Shastric studies across ISKCON. In addition to her instructional role, she holds the position of Zonal Supervisor for Texas area. With that, we will welcome Mataji by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone to this evening's program. My great pleasure to be back here in Austin and in all of your company. I haven't been here since October. Been a long time. So should I sing Jai Radha Madhava or yeah? Thank you. You play Mridanga? Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Viva. Jai. So, thank you for taking the trouble to come all the way here this evening to listen to me talk. So I selected this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 31. This chapter is the Gopis' Songs of Separation. So this is a very beautiful verse, very beautiful section of the Bhagavatam, where Krishna was having pastimes with the gopis in Vrindavan, and then all of a sudden they turned around and Krishna was gone. And they were in the middle of the forest. It was nighttime, and they came all the way out there only for Krishna. There was no other reason. They risked their lives. They risked their risked their reputations and everything. They just let go of all other considerations and hesitations and reservations, and they just ran there to the forests of Vrindavan to meet Krishna when they heard the sound of his flute. And when they got there, then Krishna received them, and then they began their pastimes there, Rasa Lila, dancing, and all kinds of loving exchanges. And then Krishna just disappeared. They couldn't understand it. They're like, Krishna, we made so much sacrifices. We made so many personal sacrifices for you, and now you've abandoned me. Did any of you ever feel like that? Krishna, I've given up so much for you. I've done so much for you. All that japa, all that reading, all those services, all the late nights cleaning up after the festival, right? And where are you when I need you? So sometimes Krishna does that. Sometimes Krishna, he appears to be absent, but it's only the appearance. He's never actually absent. But sometimes he's just observing from a distance to see what we're going to do. What are we going to do? Are we going to, the door is open there? Are we going to lose our faith in him, or are we going to serve him with even greater determination? Are we going to take shelter of his devotees? Are we going to take shelter of the holy name, or are we just going to be like, oh, this is whatever, I guess it wasn't really, I guess Krishna is not really God, or maybe I should worship someone else. So we see what the gopis did. What the gopis did was that they just completely absorbed their minds and thoughts of Krishna. And first they were searching all over. They were searching all over the forest. They were going through all the brush, the briars, and the bushes, and looking under every nook and cranny. And it was difficult for them because it was night. They're young women in the forest. They don't know their way around so well. They were getting scratched by the tree branches and things. And then eventually, when they felt like they had looked in every nook and corner and they still didn't find him, they just thought what to do. And they sat down and they started talking about him. And they thought, well, if we can't see Krishna, if we can't have him here, at least let's just talk about him. Let's keep him alive in our minds, in our thoughts. And they even they got so enlivened by talking about him that they started acting out his pastimes. Because when they're talking, they would be saying, remember when Krishna did this? Remember how he lifted Govardhan Hill and we all stood there looking at him for 7 days and 7 nights to our heart's content, and we didn't have to worry about the elders making any judgments about us? Or remember when he danced on Kaliya and he drove Kaliya out of the Yamuna, and the Yamuna became pure again and everyone could bathe there and the cows could drink there, and how wonderful that was. So they were just thinking about these pastimes, talking about them, and then acting them out amongst themselves, and getting so much relief from the pain of separation. Because it's a fact that when we chant Krishna's names, when we speak Krishna's pastimes, or even hear Krishna's pastimes, then Krishna is present there. He becomes present in the form of transcendental sound. And sometimes he becomes even personally present in a form which we may not be able to see, but we can kind of feel. Depending on the degree of our purity, we can feel his presence. There's that nice verse I think it's from one of the Puranas, where Krishna says, let's see if I can remember this. He says, Naham Tishtani Vaikunte. What's the next line? That he's Na Hridayanti Yoginam, something like that. Na Chaham. That's another one. Oh, that's the third line. That's the third line. Go ahead. Say it. Madbhaktaha. Yeah. So that means that he says, Naham Tishtani Vaikunte. I'm not present in Vaikuntha. I'm not situated in Vaikuntha, nor am I in the hearts of the yogis. He's telling this to Narada Muni. He says, but where am I? Tatra, Tatran, that's the third line. The fourth line is Tatra Gayanti Mad Bhaktaha. Yeah, he says, I'm there in that place where Mad Bhaktaha, my devotees, are Gayanti, where they're singing, where they're chanting, where they're glorifying my name, form, qualities, pastimes, where they're relishing Krishna Katha, basically. So in that situation, that's the situation that Krishna is present. And that's his preferred place of residence, right? Of course, it's not that he's not in Vaikuntha. Of course, the Lord is in Vaikuntha, and he's also in the hearts of the yogis. He's in the hearts of everyone, but he's especially present. He's most personally present. He's most blissfully present in the association of devotees who are relishing Krishna Katha, who are discussing his pastimes. So the gopis, this was the relief that the gopis got from their separation from Krishna, that they were just talking about him, chanting his holy names, acting out his pastimes. And it says, this is from the previous chapter, chapter 30, called The Gopis Search for Krishna. Text 43 says, their minds absorbed in thoughts of him, they conversed about him, acted out his pastimes, and felt themselves filled with his presence. They completely forgot about their homes as they loudly sang the glories of Krishna's transcendental qualities. The gopis again came to the bank of the Kalindi, that's the Yamuna river. Meditating on Krishna and eagerly hoping he would come, they sat down together to sing of him. And in this chapter of the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada says that they sat down on the bank of the Yamuna and they chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada says that the gopis were specifically singing Hare Krishna, just like we were singing Hare Krishna, because this was the method of relief. This is the method of invoking Krishna's presence in the form of transcendental sound and attracting him to come to that place. So then they're sitting there on the bank of the Yamuna, and they're supporting each other in their separation, and they're mitigating the pains of separation by Krishna Katha. And together they spontaneously compose these beautiful prayers called the Gopi Gita, the Gopi songs of separation. And if you go through this chapter, there's something very interesting that I'll point out about these prayers. So in every line, this is amazing. You can see how poetic the gopis were. Because in every line, not only does it have a rhythm and meter and a beautiful melody, but also the first syllable of each line matches the first syllable of the word in the second half of the line. So for example here, Tava Katamritam Tapta Jivanam. So it's ta and then ta. And then Kavivir Iditam Palma Sapaham. Shravana Mangala Shrimad So it's the Shra. Bhuvi Grinantiye Bhuri Dajana. Every single verse in this chapter has that pattern. It's amazing, right? So even in their pain of separation, sitting there in the dark, in the middle of the night on the bank of the Yamuna, suffering, apparently suffering, but actually feeling the highest bliss, they're able to compose this amazing poetry spontaneously from their hearts. So we're going to recite one of these verses. All of them are beautiful verses, but we'll go to text 9, which is that one. So, okay. So please repeat after me. We'll just do this responsively. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam. Go ahead. Kavibir iditam kalmashapaham. Shravana Mangala Srimaratatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana. Okay, so let's do it all together in unison. Ready? Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam Shrimaratatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimaratatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana. One more time. Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravana Mangalam Shrimaratatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana. Jai. So we can look at the Sanskrit words here, phrase by phrase. So Tava Katamritam. This is the gopis. They're calling out to Krishna. So they're addressing Krishna in these prayers. And they're saying your, Tava means your. And Katha means topics about you. And Amritam, so Katamritam means Katha Amritam. Yeah. That the topics about you or words spoken by you are Amrita, they're nectar. So this Sanskrit word Amrita has two different ways of being explained. So one is that it's nectar, right? I mean, Amrita means something that's like a nectar drink, or Charanamrita is the water that washed the lotus feet of the Lord. So it's a liquid something that you drink. It's literally like a liquid beverage that's sweet and tasteful like nectar. But the word mritam means death, and amrita means no death. It means immortality. So this Krishna's words or topics about Krishna are not only nectarian, they're not only relishable and tasteful and sweet and wonderful, but by hearing them, we also become free from the cycle of repeated birth and death in this material world. It's also liberating. It makes us, it takes us from being a martya to being amartya, mortals to being immortal. Right? Everybody, since the beginning of human history, people have always sought immortality, right? They've always been searching for some fountain of youth, or like Hiranyakashipu is doing austerities, for severe austerities, try to become immortal. So nobody likes to die. So here's the secret to becoming immortal. Just hearing Krishna Katha makes us immortal, because not that we're going to live in these bodies forever, but we'll be able to be reinstated in our eternal constitutional positions in the spiritual world, where we'll never have to experience old age again, or birth again, or disease again, or death again. These things are not a part of our reality anymore. When we become so absorbed in Krishna Katha that our minds are fixed on Krishna, that we're always thinking of Krishna, and then naturally at the end of this life we go to Krishna for eternal life of eternal happiness in the service of the Lord. So Tava Katamritam. And then the next is Tapta Jivanam. So tapta means, it literally means fire. It means, and the word tapasya also comes from the same root as tapa. So tapa means this fire of difficulties, the fire of tribulation, this blazing forest fire of material existence, basically. And jivanam means life. Like we're jivas. Jiva means a living entity, but also jiva just means life, right? Like you have that in Hindi, there's that famous, there's a children's nursery rhyme that my children grew up in Vrindavan. So they had a friend who she would come and she spoke only Hindi, and she would sometimes teach my daughter something. So she taught them this. How's it go? Let's see if I get it right. Machli jal ki rani hai, jivan isko pani hai. So I remember that the fish's life is water. Jivan isko pani hai. So our life is Krishna consciousness. We're like the fish who doesn't have life out of water. And in the material world, Prabhupada would give this analogy that the spiritual soul in the material world is like a fish out of water. Spirit soul is meant to be in the spiritual world. We're meant to have a spiritual life. But a spiritual being living a material life in the material world is like, it's just wrong. It's just not meant to be. And therefore, no matter how much material comforts or happiness we get, we're never actually satisfied. Just like if you take that fish and you put it on the beach and you give it a nice comfy lounging beach chair, you give it a nice cold glass of lemonade, you give it a beautiful umbrella, whatever, it's never going to be comfortable. It's never going to be happy until you put it back in the water. So in the same way, we can never be happy by any material arrangement in this world. The only thing that will satisfy the soul is spiritual engagement, spiritual life, spiritual association, and ultimately going back home, back to the spiritual world. So, but when we hear this Katamritam, Krishna Katamritam, then it's so pure and transcendental and spiritual that it's like the water. It's like, okay, it's like putting the fish in some little bit of water at least. That, okay, we're here in the material world, but we can put ourselves in a safe spiritual situation. Like the fish, all right, maybe he doesn't go back in the ocean, but you can put him in a nice aquarium, at least, you know? So when we come together and we do kirtan, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, talk about Krishna, share Krishna consciousness with others, it's like we're in the aquarium, you know? At least we can swim, you know? At least we're not going to die. We're not gasping for breath. We're not struggling for our very lives. So that's what it's saying here, is that tapta jivanam, that for those who are aggrieved in this material world, like fish out of water, it's giving us life. It's giving us a little bit of water that we can swim in, that at least we can survive through this and get back to the ocean, get back to the spiritual reality where we belong. So this Krishna Katamritam is our saving grace in this world. It's our go-to, you know, when we're distressed, when we're suffering, when we're down, depressed, or whatever. Just go to Krishna Katha. Just open the Bhagavatam and read something. Open Bhagavad Gita, read something, or, you know, go on YouTube and listen to a lecture, some kind of Krishna Katha. And as soon as we just absorb ourselves in that, it's like, all the troubles just dissipate, right? And it connects us to a higher level of thought, connects it's like getting a warm hug on the soul, right? It's like a hug that hugs your very soul and comforts you in the middle of this material world. So tapta jivanam. And then kavibir iditam. So kavibir, kavi means poet, and also means a thinker. So it's translated here as great thinkers. So very highly qualified people. Idita means described. So these, the Krishna Katha, Krishna's pastimes, qualities of Krishna, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, these things are spoken by exceptional personalities, people who are not ordinary personalities. Because to be a devotee in this world, to be a Vaishnava, it's not an ordinary thing. Devotees are very rare. Like Krishna says, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. Such a great soul is very rare. He says, out of many thousands of people, one may endeavor for perfection. And out of those who have achieved perfection, only one will know me in truth. So it's a very rare soul. If you think of the percentage of devotees on the planet, it's like 0.00. It's like a small percentage of the human population, right? Are devotees. So anybody who's talking about Krishna is a very rare person and a great thinker, because you actually have to be thoughtful. To come to Krishna consciousness, you really need to be thoughtful and introspective and observant. You need to observe the world. I remember that before, when I was a teenager, I used to spend a lot of time just thinking about things. I was very philosophically inclined as a teenager, and I wouldn't talk much. Now I talk a lot, but I used to not talk much. Now I have something to say because I have Prabhupada's books. And before I didn't know much to say. I was just observing the world and thinking, what is wrong with this world? Why is everybody just chasing after money and job and going to bars? Like, it's not even fun, like I would just see how people are earning money and then trying to enjoy themselves by getting intoxicated on the weekends and listening to loud music. And I was like, that's not even fun. It's not even enjoyable. You poison your body, you feel terrible the next day, a headache, and these people that you hang out with, they don't even care about you. They just want to try to use you in some way. And, I was just observing the whole thing. It's just a big farce. It's not enjoyment at all. It's just misery masquerading as enjoyment. I was like, why would people do this? And they spend their whole life doing this, and then they just get old and they just die. You can only enjoy those things anyway for a second. And then when you get older, you can't do it at all. It's just totally done. And then now I'd see also that old people, especially in America, they're so miserable, really grumpy and bitter and miserable and on all kinds of medications and things. And I was like, this is what it's all coming to? So you do this in your youth, and then later you get married, and then you fight with your husband or wife, and then the kids give you a lot of trouble, and then you get old, and then you just get sick, and then you just die miserable, and everything that you worked for is lost. I'm like, what kind of life is that? This is like, there's something very wrong here. So as a teenager, then I started reading a lot of philosophy and just thinking a lot and praying a lot, because I was raised a Christian. So my mother taught me, to approach God, to pray. So that was my only solace, really. And then later in my youth, when I met devotees, I was like, this is it. This is the alternative. This is the only viable alternative to life on this planet, is to live in Krishna consciousness. So this is what is being said here, that this is the life. This is the only life. This is the only way to be free from suffering, is to absorb. But it takes a thoughtful person. You have to actually be observant, because most people are just like sheep. They'll just like follow the leader. So whatever the media is saying, whatever they're hearing on the news, whatever is trending on, social media, that's the thing to do. And that's what they have to do. And then they'll just keep adjusting their life to the latest fashion, the latest top 10 music is what they're going to listen to, whatever, right? They just go with the flow, and then they just end up, the flow goes until it comes to a waterfall and off the edge. It's just like a doom flow. So yeah, it's good to be observant and thoughtful. And by being thoughtful, we can actually appreciate these things and describe, and then we can describe to others the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and this is the way to live, and explain to people, point out to people, like, can you see what's going on in the world? Can you see what the result of it is? And But this is something that you can actually nourish you, that can enhance your quality of life and bring you real happiness. And encourage them to be thoughtful. So then kalmasha apaham. That's kalmasha apaham. So that which drives away sinful reactions. So what an amazing thing that just by hearing and discussing Krishna Katha, it frees us from sinful reactions. And that's because it's such a potent process of bhakti. Right? The 9 processes of devotional service start with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. And so that's what this is. Either we're hearing Krishna Katha, or that's Shravanam, or we're chanting, speaking Krishna Katha, discussing Krishna Katha, that's Kirtanam. And by doing either of those, then comes Vishnu Smaranam. We're remembering Krishna's different incarnations, devotees of Krishna, service to Krishna. And then we get inspired to do the other processes of devotional service. Archanam and Vandanam and Dasyam and Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. What did I forget? Padasevanam. Yeah, so by hearing and chanting, we become inspired to do all those other remaining processes. So, yeah, and bhakti is very powerfully purifying. There's that verse from the Padma, I know it was definitely from the Padma Purana, that talks about how that by performance of bhakti, step by step, all sinful reactions become eradicated. All the different stages. Aprarabdha, phalam papam. Do you know this verse? Kutam bijam phalam mukam. Then? Sanchit, I don't remember the last 2 lines. Do you? Anyways, you know the verse that I'm talking about, right? So this is a Bhakti Shastri verse. I'm scholars here. Satya Sarpur is doing a good job teaching Bhakti Shastri. So, so all these different stages of sinful reactions, whether they're manifested, whether they're unmanifested, whether they're lying in seed, whether they're about to manifest, they're all completely gradually destroyed by bhakti. The last line is something like Bhakti Vishnu Ratatmatam or something like that. Anyways, yeah, by devotional service to Lord Vishnu. So Krishna Katha is the same. It drives away all sinful reactions, all stages, all 4 stages of sinful reactions. And therefore it's Shravana Mangalam, that hearing these topics, hearing Krishna Katha, brings all auspiciousness to our lives. And that also probably reminds you from something from Nectar of Devotion, right? That the first 2 stages, the first 2 characteristics of pure devotional service are Kleshagni and Shubhada. Yeah. So Kleshagni means the destruction of miseries. All miseries are gone. And then Shubhada means it brings auspiciousness to your life. So that's Mangalam is a synonym also that means auspiciousness. So it's translated here, giving spiritual benefit when heard. So it brings all auspiciousness to our lives. And then Srimad Atatam, filled with spiritual power. So this is amazing because in spiritual life, we need strength. We need strength to live a spiritual life in this material world because it's like swimming upstream, right? The flow, we're talking about going with this flow and then it goes off the waterfall and we come crashing down to our death. So we don't want to be going in that flow. We want to turn around and go the opposite direction. And so that requires, if you've ever tried to swim upstream, it requires a lot of effort, right? Sometimes you can be swimming and you look and you're still in the same place. And even that, you're getting tired and you didn't go anywhere. If you want to go somewhere, you have to really, really swim. So we need strength, we need spiritual power. And to remain fixed in our mind, to make the right choices when the whole world is screaming at us to make the wrong choices, to be able to be fixed in our determination, to follow our vows, to uphold the 4 regulative principles, to complete our 16 rounds when there's so many other things that are pressing on us to be done. It requires a lot of determination, a lot of spiritual strength. and resilience. So we get this from hearing Krishna Katha, Srimad Atatam, because this Katha is filled with spiritual power. And when we hear it, when we talk about it, then it empowers us. It becomes a source of our empowerment in this life. So that's the third line. And then this last line is very sweet. Bhuvi grinanti ye, bhuri da jana. So bhuvi means this world, right? We're here on Bhuloka, Bhumandala. This is the earth planet. So those who grinanti, that they chant, that they spread this Krishna Katha, or knowledge of Krishna consciousness, or knowledge about Krishna, those who spread it around the world, or to people in this world, are bhurida, are the most benefit. How do you say that? Beneficent. They're the most beneficent, beneficent, munificent. They're the best people. they're the best well-wishers. They're the greatest well-wishers, the most merciful. They're the people who are saving us. They're the people who are going to save the world. Right? Srila Prabhupada said that historians one day will note how this movement saved the world in its darkest hour. Because the world is just going down the tubes, really fast. It's just getting so bad and worse every year. And it's going to come to a point where people are just going to be so distressed and lose their faith in everything. And if we can somehow provide shelter, we can bring people to the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet and give them this relief, this tapta jivanam, to give them life, bring back their lives. It's like somebody who's been drowning and they've been underwater for a long time. You need to bring them onto land and resuscitate them, do some CPR on them. Or somebody who's been in a fire and their body's burnt and they're suffering so much they're losing consciousness. You need to hook them up to some support machines, to keep them alive. So the mental and emotional, psychological anguish will get to the point where it's so bad that people need to be just hooked up to like a life support system. And this is the life support system, is Krishna Katha. And that you just need an intravenous injection of Krishna Katha to keep them alive. And so people who go out and, go out on the street and do kirtan, go out and distribute books, go door to door, go to places and set up book tables, or, do online classes, or put, posts on social media, who just somehow or other try to spread Krishna consciousness in any way, shape, or form. The gopis of Vrindavan, who are the best devotees, who are the most intimate associates of Krishna, are saying that those people are the most beneficent persons in the whole world. So the preachers, so let me just read the translation here. This is actually Srila Prabhupada's translation, because although this is chapter 31, that most of the translations are not Prabhupada's, but this is taken from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where this verse is quoted. So, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. So this is a very beautiful verse. And in the purport, it's mentioned how, the story from Chaitanya Charitamrita of Maharaj Prataparudra. So he was a devotee, but he was in an unfortunate position. Of course, most of us would think it was a fortunate position to be a king. But from his point of view, it was an unfortunate position, because he really wanted to associate with Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya refused to be in his personal presence, because he was a king. He was considered a pound, shilling, and pence person. He was involved in so many material affairs and undertakings. And Lord Chaitanya said, I'm a sannyasi. I cannot associate with someone so materially involved as you. And those days they didn't have Zoom classes. So he had no way of associating with Lord Chaitanya. So he was very upset. He was trying everything. Even the associates of Lord Chaitanya in Puri, headed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, were doing everything. They were pleading with the Lord to try to allow Maharaj Prataparudya to have his association. And Lord Chaitanya was fixed. He was firm. He was just like, no, if you keep pressuring me to associate with this materialistic person, I'm going to leave this place. You won't see my face again here in Puri. So the devotees are like, okay, we won't mention it again. So they didn't. But then there was the Ratha Yatra festival. And Maharaj Prataparudya, he was very smart. So he was the king. And it was the custom that the king of Orissa would sweep. So he took off his king clothes and he just dressed himself as a humble Vaishnava, just simple dhoti, chadar, tilak, neck beads. And he was with bare feet there and sweeping in front of the cart the whole way. So Lord Chaitanya, he didn't speak to him and he didn't go near him, but he saw that and he noted his humble behavior and he appreciated it. And then later when the Rath came to its destination, which was the Gundicha Mandir, where the Jagannath Baladev Subhaji would stay for some time, then Lord Chaitanya had been dancing so exuberantly during the Rath, during the procession. He was dancing and spinning and whirling in the air. Said that his dancing, he was spinning so fast, there was like a firebrand. You know, when you take a stick and you make it burn on the end and you go like the kids do it, right? They do like this, and then it makes a circle, like a continuous circle. That Lord Chaitanya was spinning so fast that they couldn't, his body was making like a continuous circle. They couldn't see like where in space he was. Is he here? Is he there? It's all just a continuum. So by the time they got to Gundicha, of course, Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. He doesn't get tired, but in his pastimes, he became tired. So that Gundicha temple is surrounded by gardens, beautiful gardens. It's a little bit out of the city. So Lord Chaitanya just went to the garden and he found a place there and he lied down. So then at that time, the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, they went to Maharaj Prataparudya and they said, now's your chance to go do some service for Lord Chaitanya because he's sleeping. He's very tired. He's going to be in a deep sleep. He's not going to know anything. Just go there and massage his feet. Just massage his feet and his legs. He's been jumping and dancing and walking for so long, and you'll do some service for him. So Maharaj Prataparudya, he was very shy. He was very worried, and he's like, go. So he went, and then he was massaging Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet very gently, and while he's massaging them, he's singing this Gopi Gita. So he starts from the beginning. He's singing all the verses very beautifully, very sweetly, and then finally he gets to this Tava Katamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavi Viriditam Kalma Shapaham Shravana Mangalam Shrimaratatam Bhuvi Grinantiye Buddhidajana. And then when he says that last line, Lord Chaitanya sits up and he opens his eyes wide and he says, Buddhidajana, you are the most munificent person. You are the most munificent person. And he embraces King Prataparudra. And he holds him tight to his chest. And he's ecstatic and he's saying, you are the most munificent person because you are reciting Krishna Katha. You're reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. You're benefiting the whole world. The sweet transcendental sound vibration coming from your mouth is spreading all over the universe and is delivering all living entities and is giving so much pleasure to my heart. And Lord Chaitanya is overwhelmed with gratitude and appreciation. And then he sees that it's actually the king. But by that time, it's too late. He's already bestowed his mercy upon him. And Actually, the thing is, Lord Chaitanya never rejected Maharaj Prataparuja. It was just a pastime, he was just increasing the king's desire. And he was actually, in his heart, he was just waiting for this opportunity to be able to bestow his mercy and his blessings and his affection and his personal association on Maharaj Prataparuja. But it's significant that it was this verse that actually, Lord Chaitanya was, hearing all the verses, but it was this one that made him sit up, and this one that made him exceptionally ecstatic, to the point that he just embraced Maharaj Prataparuja. And it also shows us how it also is instructive to us, because it shows us what Lord Chaitanya wants from us, and that he wants us to relish Krishna Katha. He wants us to share the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to the people of this world. He wants us to be Buddhidas, Buddhidajanas. He wants us to be those most munificent people who go out and tell others about Krishna, bring others to the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet and the association of devotees, engage others in the processes of devotional service. So, yeah, this is a very beautiful verse that I wanted to share with all of you and to churn a little bit. So I guess I'll just open it up for some reflections, comments, or anything, thoughts that you might have had during this discussion.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very wonderful class. Thank you for the wonderful class. One question I have is, so often we say that the gopis were, not considering him as Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were, and now here we are saying, okay, if you sing about him, you are the greatest munificent person. So how do we understand the two difference?
Well, they're not saying here that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're just saying that when we talk about you, when we hear your Katha, it saves us from suffering. That it's the remedy for all miseries in this world, and therefore everybody goes around talking about you because it makes them happy, and it frees them from all of their suffering, and it brings good fortune upon everyone who hears them. So, yeah. Of course, the translation here says, certainly those who spread the message of Godhead, but that's Prabhupada's translation. It's not specifically here in the Gopis' words. So it's still consistent with their mood. Yeah. Yeah. But it's amazing how even without saying that he's God, they said, everything that we need to understand that he is. Because who else, just by talking about them, you get freed from all your material miseries? Who else, just by talking about them, you get, all good fortune in your life? You get freed from your sinful reactions. You get liberated from death. Only Krishna. So even though, the Brajvasis, even though they don't necessarily know that Krishna is God, but they still know that Krishna is somebody very, very special, right? Like sometimes they say, oh, maybe he's a demigod. They know he's a very exceptional personality. There's something very special about this boy Krishna. And that somehow we just can't pull our hearts away from him, no matter what he does. And somehow, even if he breaks our pots, even if he pinches our babies and makes them cry, still, he makes us so happy. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for wonderful class. In Telugu, one saying is there: if you have jackfruit in your home, you cannot hide it because the smell comes.
Yeah.
So maybe gopis, they might not know he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they're experiencing the power of Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're experiencing, just, yeah, like I was saying, that the association of Krishna was something extra special, inexplicable, inconceivable, right? The things that Krishna would do, and even if he wasn't doing anything, superhuman, even if he wasn't like, lifting Govardhan Hill or expanding himself or something. Of course, they didn't know he was expanding himself. They thought that he was only with them. But just by even the simple things that Krishna would do, the human-like activities, it would invoke so much love and so much happiness and so much transcendental attachment and bliss that it's like, what's happening? This like, why am I feeling like this? Right? Like the cowherd men when Krishna expanded himself to be all of the boys and calves. So the cows were like running down the hill to, going to the calves when those calves were already a little older. The cows already had like younger calves that they should have been more affectionate towards. Like they couldn't understand, why are they going so crazy? They become mad over these older calves, who are almost grown up, and they should be a little detached from these calves already. They're going nuts about these calves. And why is it that I feel so much affection for my own son? Like usually this love that I feel is what I feel towards Krishna. All of a sudden I'm feeling it towards my own son. So even, usually parents, they love their own children more than any other child, right? They might appreciate another child. They might think another child is adorable and cute and smart and clever and all that. But even if their own child is not so cute, not so smart, not so well behaved, they'll still love their own child more, right? But not so for the Brajavasis. For the Brajavasis, it was like Krishna. Everyone just loved Krishna in such an exceptional way, in a way that they couldn't even understand. Like we don't know why we love Krishna so much, but there it is. We just love Krishna, and Krishna is just wonderful. So, yeah, Prabhupada would always say that they don't love him because he's God. They don't worship him. They don't, serve him because he's God. They just serve him because they love him, and they just love him because he's Krishna, and that's it. So he doesn't need to be God for the Brajavasis. For us, it's different, right? We need to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, we take him to be an ordinary person. We might make offenses. We will think, oh, who's Krishna? I'll just do my own thing. So that's why the Bhagavatam starts off with, Janmadyasya yatanvayadi tarataschatesh. Krishna is the supreme cause of all causes of the creation and sustenance and annihilation of the universes. He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. By him, even the demigods are put into illusion and bewilderment and like that. So we have to understand the position of Krishna and start from offering respects, offering worship, because understanding that he's the Lord, he's the supreme controller, he's the source of this whole existence, and he's conscious of everything, and therefore I should worship him because he's God and he's great and I'm small. But as we advance in our Krishna consciousness and our service, then that greatness of God becomes less important. And we come to just love Krishna. We hear the pastimes of Krishna. By doing our services for Krishna, celebrating festivals and appearance days of the Lord, we just feel so inspired and happy, and because it's just, he doesn't have to be God. We're just doing it because he's wonderful, because Krishna is wonderful, because Lord Ramachandra is wonderful, because Lord Nrsimhadeva is wonderful, and so the love starts to overshadow the mood of awe and reverence, and then we actually start getting more into the mood of the Brajavasis. That we just want to serve Krishna because he's amazing, and we want to serve Krishna's devotees because they're amazing. And it doesn't matter whether they're a senior devotee or a junior devotee or what their position is. We just want to serve all devotees because we love all devotees, because all devotees love Krishna and they help me to love Krishna, and that's it. Right? So that's the perfection. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for a very nice class. I mean, this verse, it emphasizes like, the Krishna Katha is just like a nectar, it eradicates your sinful reactions, it gives you good fortune.
Mm.
But we see that like, many people, they have no attraction.
Mm.
But I mean, rather, if you see, if Krishna Katha is not in your life, the only thing that is left is suffering. So why would people choose, in a way, suffering, a life of suffering, like, a fish out of water situation, than being on the other side, which is
Yeah.
full bliss, how's that possible? Is their will stronger than, like, all this nectar thing?
Yeah. Well, it's like Lord Chaitanya says in the Shikshastika, right? Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tetrapita niyamata smarani nakala etajashi tabakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva mridusha mihajanina nuraga. That my Lord, your holy names alone can render all benediction upon living beings. What we're hearing here, all benedictions upon living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. And in these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental potencies, like we're hearing here. They're filled with spiritual power. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting the names. Anyone can just chant the holy names any place. Anyone can hear Krishna Katha any place. No qualification required. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Right? So that's the position of people that not interested. Not interested. So why? That's the question. Why are people not interested? Well, Maya is very strong. Maya is very strong. So the whole reason that we come to this material world is because we want to forget about Krishna. Because in the spiritual world, Krishna is the center of attention. Krishna is the object of everyone's love, the main object of everyone. Not that they don't love each other, but Krishna is the main object of everyone's love. So, yeah, so we somehow would develop a mentality that why should Krishna, why does it always have to be all about Krishna? Why is the whole universe has to revolve around Krishna and everybody's just wanting to serve him and love him and give gifts to him and be with him and everyone's talking about him and glorifying him and what about me? Right? So as soon as we have that what about me thought, then we start, it grows. It's like a cancer, that it just starts growing within the body and poisoning and metastasizing and spreading through our consciousness, and it becomes then we develop a bitterness towards Krishna. That why is everybody serving? I'm not going to serve him. Why should I serve him? People should serve me. So then, with that mentality, we can't stay in the spiritual world. So then it's like, okay, well, then we need to go somewhere else. So then Krishna arranges that, okay, you want to be happy without me? Fine. You want to forget about me? Fine. So then we come to this material world, and he arranges that his external energy, Maya, covers us, covers our consciousness, blocks out our memory of him, blocks out our memory that we have a really eternal relationship with him, that we're his eternal servants, that we're even souls. And that makes us think that we're material bodies. And so that covering is very thick. It's very dense. And it's there because of our desire. So as long as we're desiring to be the master and be the enjoyer and be the controller in this world, then the covering, we stay covered. And that's why the material world is designed in such a way as to break that desire. That desire to smash all hopes of being the supreme enjoyer in this world. And because the world by nature is not enjoyable, right? It's dukkalaya ashashvatam. It's a place of misery where everything is temporary and miserable. And so we try so hard to prove Krishna wrong. That, no, you're saying it's a miserable place, but I can make it happy. If I just get a little more money, if I just marry the right person, if I just have a child, if I just move to another place, if I just get a better home, if I just, go on vacation, I can make it happy. I can make a happy life for myself and my family and my friends. I can be happy and, We try so hard, everything constantly like, okay, that didn't work. Let me try this. All right, it was just the wrong person. Next time they won't be there. All right, it's just the weather was bad. Next time we'll plan better. We'll make a arrangement for that, or whatever. Just always trying to make some little to somehow we're hoping against hope that we'll be happy in this world by some kind of material adjustment, and it just never happens. And so eventually comes to the point where like, I give up. I've done everything I could to try to enjoy myself in this world. I've done everything I could to try to control my life, control others, manage things in the way that I want it, to make things go my way. And it never works. It never turns out the way that I want it to. And then we start turning to God, basically. People turn to God, I need help. Please guide me. All the things that I thought were going to help me in my life have failed me. And I need your help. So, yeah, the material world is literally designed to bring us to our knees. So then all these people who are not interested in God, one day they'll become interested. It's just a matter of time. Because it's a school, and it's the school of hard knocks. So either we learn the easy way or the hard way. Easy way is we listen to those who know. We listen to pious religious people, spiritual teachers who can teach us about the path of bhakti and the way to make spiritual advancement and really achieve happiness in this life and the next. That's the easy way. Or that's we'll probably say first class intelligence is that by hearing you accept and you apply it and you benefit. And then there's second class intelligence that you don't learn by hearing. You have to go out and experience it, suffer for yourself, and then come back and be like, oh, actually you were right, I'm going to follow you. And then third class intelligence is that you hear, you don't accept it, you go out and try your own way, you get smashed, and still you don't learn. Again, you try another thing, you get smashed, and try another thing. So most people, they have third class intelligence. And then it's just a question of how many hard knocks they have to get before they learn. So that's what's happening. But it's all happening according to Krishna's plan. That's why sometimes, people think, oh, if God existed then, and if God's actually all good and all knowing and all powerful, then why is there so much suffering in the world? There can't be a God, or either that, or he's not in control, or he's not powerful, or he's totally clueless about what's going on. Otherwise it would be heaven on earth here if God had his way and he wants us to be. So they don't understand the actual situation. The actual situation is that there is a God, and he is all powerful, and he knows exactly what's going on. And he's actually arranging all this suffering so that people will come to their knees and take an interest in him and engage in purifying processes of religious life, and gradually elevate themselves to pure devotional service and come back to him. Because if life was wonderful, they would just stay here, forever, just trying to enjoy, and not quite. Maybe they get some pleasure, like on the heavenly planets, there's a higher standard of enjoyment. People actually do kind of enjoy life, but it's not the enjoyment that the soul is entitled to. It's not. It's like Lord Rishabhadev says that verse. Nayam deho deha bhajamri loke kashtan kaman arhate vid bhujamye tapo divyam putrika yena sattvam shudyad yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. So he says that this human form of life, he's talking to his sons, he says, in this human form of life, don't just try to enjoy the same pleasures that are available to the hogs and dogs that eat stool. In other words, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. He says the animals are doing that. And the same pleasure that you get from eating your pizza or whatever, the dogs and the hogs are getting from eating stool. They get the same pleasures of the taste buds. It's just a different, you don't enjoy what they eat. They may not enjoy what you eat, but the same pleasure is there from your preferred food in whatever species you're in. So he says human life is not meant for that. He says, so don't pursue sense pleasures, because sense pleasures, you can get that as a pig. You know, you're a human being. Human beings are entitled. He says, kashtan kamam arhate. He says, arhate means deserves. That you don't deserve that, Lord. You deserve such a higher, as a human being, you deserve more. You deserve a better life. And how to achieve that better life? Tapo divyam. I need to perform some transcendental austerities of devotional service. In other words, austerities means not that we have to sit in a ring of fire in the blazing, August in Austin, or not that we need to submerge ourselves in the freezing water in the winter. But our austerity is to just give up gross sense gratification, just forego those pleasures of the hogs and dogs, and engage ourselves in spiritual life and spiritual practices. And in the beginning, it's an austerity because in the beginning, we're not attracted to them. In the beginning, we don't have a taste for chanting. We don't have a taste for serving, right? We have to force ourselves to get up in the morning and chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds. Oh my God. Still 4 rounds left. Oh, can I do it? We don't have a taste. So we have to tolerate the austerity of not having a taste in the beginning and forcing ourselves to do those practices. But then by doing that tapo divyam, by doing that divine austerity of devotional service, then it brings us to the shuddha sattva. And shuddhyad tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhyad yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. And then that brings us to brahma sokyam, means spiritual happiness, right? Sokyam is like sukhi, means happy, and Brahman means spirit. So it gives us Brahma Sokyam, the spiritual happiness, not the material happiness of the hogs and dogs, but the spiritual happiness of the soul, the spiritual happiness of pure spiritual personalities in the spiritual world, which is not temporary, like the temporary happiness, pleasures of this world, but it's tvanantam, it's anantam, it's without end, and which is ever increasing, which goes on forever. So he said, this is what we're entitled to, is that happiness. So how did I get to that point? I mean, what's that? Why we're not interested, why people are not interested. Yeah, so we need to, I lost my, I lost the link to the previous point. Does someone remember the link? To why we're not interested, we're interested in lower pleasures. We want to enjoy separately from Krishna. And then? That was before. I'm just thinking, what made me remember that verse? School of Hard Knocks. Yeah.
That's the last one.
3 types of intelligence. Okay. No attraction. Okay, yeah. So I think the point I was trying to make, sorry, this happens to me. I get so like I go one verse. This always happens to me when I'm planning a class also. I'll be reading the verses that I'm supposed to speak on. Oh, that verse. Oh, yeah, and that purport. Oh, yeah, and the other verse. Going all around the whole Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita. And it's like, this whole thing opens up. Yeah, it's really nice. It's one of the happy things for me in Krishna consciousness. But yeah, so we as human beings, we deserve a higher level of happiness. And so we just need to have a little faith that this higher level of happiness exists. The scriptures are always talking about it. And just do an experiment, just like, okay, just give up gross, meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. Just give up this main 4 types of gross material sense pleasures, and undergo that austerity of, not doing those things for some time, and simultaneously engage in the processes of bhakti and see what happens. Gradually the taste comes. Just like in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says that in the beginning, we may not have a taste for the holy names because the tongue is afflicted with the disease of jaundice. You know, the person with jaundice, you can give them straight sugar, and they put it, as soon as it touches their tongue, it's like, ooh, so bitter, tastes bitter because there's a bile in the blood, and it just, when sugar touches that, it becomes bitter. But the remedy for the jaundice, for the disease of jaundice, is to drink sugarcane juice or take sugar. That's the remedy, is to eat sugar, the pure sugar candy. And that heals the liver. And then gradually, the more you eat the sugar candy, then at first it's bitter, and then gradually, because it's the remedy, it's less bitter, less bitter, less bitter, starting to get a little sweet, more sweet, more sweet, and then it's fully sweet because it cures us. So although we don't want to chant, we don't have a taste for chanting, but the more we chant, the more we start to actually get a taste for chanting. And then that makes us want to chant more, and then we get more taste, more taste, more taste. And then we come to the point where we just can't live without chanting. We just have to chant. We want to chant. We're hankering to chant more than 16 rounds. We want to go to, kirtan. And like we were talking about Sadhu Sangha that we had recently, that a lot of you were probably there, right? That people are like spending money buying plane tickets, and registration is like $300 a person or something to register for on-site accommodations, and people are coming with their whole families and spending probably like over $1,000 just to chant Hare Krishna. They've got some taste, right? And they come every year, they come back. And so all they're doing is chanting Hare Krishna, nothing else, because the prasadam is really good too. But I mean, the main thing is chanting Hare Krishna is that Tava Katam Ritam, they're tasting the nectar. So eventually we'll be able to relish that nectar, the nectar for which we're always anxious. Yeah. So we just need to keep going in Krishna consciousness, whether I have a taste, no taste, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing, and gradually we'll get purified. The taste will come, and we'll come to this position of thinking that there's nothing better. Like Rupa Goswami says that when he says, I don't know how much nectar there is in its 2 syllables, Krishna, because when I chant them, then he says, how does it go? Tunde, tunde, tunde. Tunde, tunde, tandavani, ratim. There's the melody is with Sat Goswami Astakam. Krishna Kirtana Ganana. Tunde tandavani ratim vitanute. Tandavali labdaye. Karna kroda kadambini gatayate. Karnar budebya spriham. Cheta prangamas sangini vijayate sarvindriyanam kritim najano janita griyadbir amritam Krishneti Varnam Dvai. It's a very beautiful verse. You should try to learn this verse. So this is sung by Srila Rupa Goswami, right? It's Rupa Goswami. So he says that when he says the 2 syllables Krishna, then there's so much nectar in those 2 syllables that he wishes that he had many, many mouths to be able to chant. And when the nectar of the sound enters into his ears, then he wishes that he had millions of ears to hear it more and more. And when the sound vibration, because it comes from the mouth, goes in the ears and goes to the heart. And when it goes into the heart, it dances in the courtyard of the heart. And at that time, then all of the senses become inert. The whole external world just is gone. Just absorbed. Krish. So when will that day be mine? Right? Kabe habe bolo se dinamar. When will that day be mine? When I'm able to relish the pure holy name, when I'm completely free from my anarthas, my offenses, my material attachments, and I can actually just be totally 100% absorbed in the holy name and experience the Shuddhanam, the pure holy name. So we have this to look forward to. You know, if we're not experiencing the nectar of Krishna Katha yet, just keep going. It's just a matter of time. We shouldn't be discouraged. Oh, I've been chanting for so many years. Still, it's a struggle. Oh, I've been coming to Bhagavatam classes. I've been reading Prabhupada's books for so many years. Still, I'm falling asleep reading. You know, still, I'd rather be watching a movie or something. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And gradually, it's going to have an effect. Like medicine, you know, you get a course of, you go to the doctor, they give you a course of antibiotics or something. So it's not that first few days that taking those pills, you're still feeling sick. And sometimes you think, oh, this medicine doesn't work, I'll just stop with it. But if you stop there, you're going to stay sick. You're never going to get better. You need to do the whole course. And then, you know, then you're going to start feeling better. So we just need to keep taking the medicine. This is the medicine. Yeah, Bhagavatam uses that language that this is the right medicine for curing the material disease of the living entities. So we just need to keep doing it. And the gopis here are encouraging us. And we always praying to follow in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan, right? So this is what it means. To follow in their footsteps means more and more to become absorbed in the nectar of Krishna's words. Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita. So many places throughout Bhagavatam that the Lord in his different incarnations and manifestations and speaks, or descriptions about the activities of the Lord by devotees. And Prabhupada was so kind that he gave us all these books he translated. Prabhupada was so eager for us to have the descriptions of the activities of the Lord that that very early on he gave us the 10th canto in the form of the Krishna book, right? And then even he was doing the Bhagavatam, and then he stopped at one point in the Bhagavatam to give us the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, the activities of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna in his most merciful form. And so he was so eager, staying up all night. It's hard to stay up all night, you know, all night, every night after you've worked a full day too. And you have so many other demands, so many people coming with all their problems from all over the world, writing your letters every day and having to answer those letters and giving classes. And of course, Prabhupada was not an ordinary person, but still, you know, I mean, he would stay up all night to translate these verses and write his purports to give us this amritam, to give us this Krishna Katamritam, so we need to take full advantage of this. And Prabhupada gave his last years of his life for us to have this Krishna Katha. So we need to really also, he made such a great sacrifice to give it to us. We need to make at least a small sacrifice to receive it. And to read it, to hear it, to discuss it, to share it, to relish it. And that's a service. That's a service to Srila Prabhupada and service to all of the acharyas who have given this, because there's a whole line, not just Prabhupada, but a whole line of previous acharyas that have passed this on, who've added their realizations, who've given their commentaries. And Srila Prabhupada poured over all those commentaries, and he integrated all of the acharyas, the commentaries of the previous acharyas into his purports. When I was studying the Bhakti Vedanta, it was very interesting because a lot of the teachers were encouraging us to read the acharyas' commentaries. And so one of the devotees shared a file with us that has acharyas' commentaries. So for every verse, you can read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries, Sanatana Goswami's commentaries, Jiva Goswami's commentaries. And when you read those and then you read Prabhupada's, you see that everything that they said is there in Prabhupada's purport. Everything is there. Prabhupada read all of those. He extracted the essence and he wove it all together and he put it in his purports in the English language in a way that we can understand. Such an incredible service. And so we don't even need to read the Acharya's commentaries because Prabhupada just, he gave it to us. And so, yeah, we're very fortunate that we have this nectar, we have like all this nectar at our fingertips. We have a unlimited fountain of nectar just showering. It's just like Prabhupada just like dumped buckets of it on our heads, and all we need to do is drink it. Just open our mouths, open our ears, open our eyes and read, open our ears and hear, open our mouths and speak, and we're going to taste it eventually. If not now, eventually. Okay, any other thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, that was a wonderful class. So I'm just wondering, see, gopis are in the mood of separation, but this verse is more like a preaching verse. It sounds like, not sounds like, it's all about talking about Krishna Katha's importance, significance.
Spreading Krishna consciousness all
Yeah,
over the world, yeah.
Right? So I'm just trying to connect, because their mood is, I would have expected them to be like saying glories of Krishna, how amazing he is, how much I miss you. That's what we would do if you're missing someone,
Yeah.
right? But how do they manage to write? It's a very relevant verse to the current
Yeah.
situation.
Well, the gopis are also preachers. You didn't know that?
No.
The gopis are the best preachers. And when Lord Chaitanya comes, he comes to give Krishna consciousness. And that mood is the mood of Srimati Radharani, right? He comes with the mood of Srimati Radharani, and that mood is compassion. Radharani's mood is compassion. So Lord Chaitanya, when Krishna came, he wasn't so compassionate. No offense, Krishna. No. But he said, after speaking the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he said, don't share this confidential knowledge that I've taught you about bhakti to anyone who's not a devotee, who's not austere. Don't tell it to anybody who's envious of me. He made a lot of restrictions. And but when Lord Chaitanya came, he's Krishna, but he came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Srimati Radharani is like, no restrictions. Just break open the storehouse of love of God and distribute the contents wide and far to anyone and everyone without considering who's qualified, who's not qualified. And then when Lord Chaitanya came, he didn't come alone, but he came. All the gopis of Vrindavan came with him, right? All the 6 Goswamis, they're all gopis. They're all gopis from Goloka who came with him, and they gave us these books of Krishna Katha. They wrote so many scriptures all about the pastimes of Krishna, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the process of bhakti, which enables us to be able to enter into these things and relish them. And so they're all preachers. In fact, someone told me, Jayapataka Maharaj once said that Srimati Radharani is the best. Wait, let me get this right. Yeah, Srimati Radharani is the best preacher because she made Krishna a devotee. Right? Because Krishna, he was seeing that Radharani has so much bhakti. Radharani has so much love for him that he wants to become a devotee so he can experience what it feels like to love himself. Because Radharani's the best preacher, she made Krishna a devotee. And then, and when Krishna comes in the mood of Radharani, then he makes so many devotees. And when her gopi assistants come, all the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Manjari, Vilas Manjari, all these Manjaris, and even our acharyas, we know that they're all, they have their eternal forms as gopis, servants of Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. And they did the same thing. They were like the best preachers. They were the acharyas that brought us all this nectar. So the gopis here, they're saying, those who broadcast the message of Godhead are most munificent. So Krishna heard them saying this. He's like, oh, you want to spread the message of Godhead? Let's go. Kali Yuga is coming. So they all went. They all came here, right to this planet. And it wasn't even that long ago, just over 500 years ago. The places are still there. The places the Lord Chaitanya and his associates lived, Those places are still there. So you are very blessed to take birth at this time on this planet, and so soon after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And yeah. Okay. Wrap it up then. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi.